Good evening.
Good evening.
Glad to have you all out here tonight. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the North Highland Memorial Community Center. We are hosting a town hall style debate tonight between candidates who are running for local offices that will represent Autauga County. My name is Oscar Berry III. I am a son and a native of this county, and it's my pleasure and my honor to be here with you tonight as we moderate this debate amongst our local candidates. Now, in these three places that we have people representing tonight, we don't have opposition present. And so what we would like to do with each of the candidates, we would like for each of those candidates to go by the questions that we're given, but be very specific about what the roles are in educating our community and what those roles are, what each of these positions will do, and how they influence our community. That's extremely important because in so many of our, especially our local offices, we as a public really get very confused and twisted up about which office is responsible for which function. And so tonight, we really want to take advantage of the opportunity that we have with these candidates who come so that they can educate all of us as a public and as a community on what these roles entail and what they will be responsible for and have the influence over if elected into these roles. Let me introduce our candidates who are present tonight. For Autauga County Commission, place number 5, we have Larry Mack Stoudemire. For our circuit judge, place number 4, we have candidate Dee Dee Calhoun. And for our district judge, we have candidate Kyle Shirley. So what I'd like to do is allow each of them to come up and first give their opening statements about their position and about their platform for that position if they are elected into it. And then from there, we'll get to some more detailed questions from the audience and from myself. So with that being said, let's have current commissioner for place 5, Mr. Larry Mack Stoudemire.
District 5.
So good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
It's good for y'all to have me here. And, I like the way Mr. Berry put that. I have a list of things that we have done in the past for the 8 years that I've been in there. For the 8 years I've been in there, I have my list here. We done put in like $577 million within Autauga County. We have created 108 jobs. We have created 7 more introductions coming into the county. Now we have a very important role with the county and the city. What we do, we do a lot of things behind the scenes that you all not know about. We are working at all times. There's a lot of things that I can't discuss with you all about. I understand that you all may want to know, but we cannot discuss it until the plan is in place. And once we get the plan in place, then we'll come out with it. We put over $900,000 within 2 parks in this county right now, and they're to make it. And we also discussed on yesterday, we come out with a plan for the stone shelters. We talked about that today. I can't go into detail with you, but I do know that soon we'll have a plan in place for you all. And another thing, $169 million of introduction came in within the 4 years that I've been, the last 4 years. We are working hard. And if anybody like a copy of this, I'll be more than happy to give you a copy. I don't want to name all the business that we have on here, but it's some business that you all haven't heard about. We have a Hyundai substation here in Autauga County that no one seems to know anything about. That's what I'm saying. We are working behind the scenes. We're getting more business in here. And if anybody have any questions about anything, they can come see me and sit down and talk with me, and I can explain it all to you. But job creation, we done created 1,924 jobs. It's jobs out there for people that wants to work. They are there. All you have to do is just go out there and get it. James Hart is out there right now looking for people, starting them off at like $30 an hour. $30 an hour. All you have to do is go out there and apply. So we are working behind the city. We work closely with the city. Now, a lot of these jobs, these factories that's coming in, we have to work with the city. It's a partnership thing. We, as county commissioners, we work with the city. They'll do their part. We do our part. We work with the state. We work with Cardex. We work with the state of Alabama. It's a lot going on. Like I said, it's a lot going on that y'all really not know about. But I promise you, you call me, talk to me, we can sit down and talk, and I can explain it all to you. Thank you for having me here tonight. Like again, I am Commissioner Larry Stoudemire in District 5, and I'm asking for your vote to continue the work that we have done. Thank you for having me. Ma'am?
You said we can have a copy of that.
You can.
Good evening to all of y'all. Thank you for having
Good
me
evening.
this evening. As the moderator introduced, I am running for Circuit Judge Place 4. Dee Dee Calhoun. I just want to make a note. My last name is spelled C-A-L-H-O-O-N. I know most people are accustomed to the O-U-N spelling. I married into that name, and I've had to get accustomed to it over the past 27 years. Everybody misspells it. So make a note of that when you see my name on the ballot, Calhoun. I have 27 years with Troy Calhoun. We've been married. We have 4 children, 2 grandchildren, and another grandchild on the way in August. I have 21 years of legal experience combined, including my legal lawyer experience and also the time that I was a legal assistant and a paralegal. I have 12 years federal experience and 7 years state court experience. So if you compare the candidates in this race, you will see, in fact, I am the most qualified candidate out of the 3 that are running. I do ask that you pay attention to that when you hear the statements given of the other 2 opponents. There are 3 of us in this race, so the March 5th race will be important, so we need everybody to get out and to vote to prevent a runoff. I don't know what else you want to know about me. I look forward to the questions. I will answer them as best I can, and I hope to get to know each one of you more throughout this evening. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I am Kyle Shirley, and just first and foremost, I want to thank Councilman Jackson for putting us on, getting us here. I know him and Coach Moncrief were here early setting up, so thanks to them for getting that done. I'm Kyle Shirley, running for District Judge here in Autauga County. I am not running against Ms. Calhoun. We are running for 2 separate spots. She's running for a spot that includes 3 counties. All I'm running for is Autauga County. So the first question that a lot of people ask is, well, what's a district judge? District judge handles a ton of different things. So you have the juvenile court, I'll come back to that. You have your criminal court. That's where you handle misdemeanors and all first appearances on felony cases. So you touch a lot of people coming through that way. You have the traffic court. You also have civil court up to $20,000, which includes your small claims court. So the docket is pretty large compared to everything else. Juvenile court is the thing that excites me most about this position, and honestly, that's the driving force behind this position and why I want it. I'm married. I have 2 kids. They couldn't be here because my daughter has dance, and we've just decided that my 5-year-old is not allowed to be here when I speak because he thinks he should get to speak too. So instead of having that interruption, we left him at home. But I've got kids, and I understand these issues. My mom was sitting back there, and, I understand the issues that a child can cause for a parent when they start sowing those wild oats. And so one of the things in juvenile court is delinquency court, where kids commit crimes. And it's sealed. It's a way to give these kids a chance to bounce back so that these poor decisions aren't what sets their life on the bad path. Then you have dependency, which is where kids don't have parents that are ready, willing, and able to meet their needs. You're getting the most vulnerable people at the most vulnerable time in their life, and they need somebody looking out for them. You know, I can stand up here and talk about I'm tough on crime, I'm this, I'm that. Well, why don't, instead of just saying I'm tough on crime, we look at the problem that's causing the crime? Why don't we look at when you go into child support court and you have all these cases of dads that aren't involved in their lives? You got Pastor L. White that's got his fatherhood program that is touching and impacting lives, but he's only been able to touch a few lives. We need to try to expand these programs so that we can actually attack the problems instead of just throwing people in jail and saying, oh, yep, bad criminal, go. Let's try to get back to what makes Autauga County great. Let's try to get to our hometown values. I was born and raised here. My mom was a teacher here forever. My granddad ran Gurney forever. You know my family. You know what we stand for. You know why I care about this position. So I look forward to answering all your questions, and I'm going to sit down and turn it over to Oscar.
Okay. Thank you, candidates, for that opening statement. Our first round of questions, what we would like to put in front of each one of the candidates individually, is we would like for them, and Kyle has already started to wade into it, but we would like for each of those candidates to offer their perspective in terms of what they see as a challenge that is facing them in their respective offices here in the county or in the circuit, wherever that happens to be. So again, with the same order, Commissioner Stoudemire, if you'll go first.
Well, I think our biggest challenge is getting the citizens to understand how the county works. That's one of our biggest challenges. A lot of people say things or do things and not really understand how the program works. We have to go by a chain of command with things, just like we just can't just go say, well, we're gonna go and spend $5 million here and not go by the chain of command. We have to know where that money going, where that money coming from, in a situation like that. Now, the challenges that like I said, my biggest challenge, I don't know about anyone, my biggest challenge, try to get my constituents to understand how things work. That's just my biggest challenge. But if you don't sit down and talk to your candidate, you'll never know how it works. One thing about it, I like for every one of my constituents, which now I know it's not going to happen, to come to county commission meeting. You come to the county commission meeting, you'll see how, you really see how things work. But other than that, working with the city, trying to get money from the State Department. So a lot of people think the county have a lot of money, but I used to think the same thing, but we really don't, because that money has to be on a line item. You have money you have to spend for certain things. If you say I'm gonna buy a car with this set of money, you know you can't do it. You just can't do it. Everything, all the money that you have is a line item. It's a line out. It's a line out. So, like I said, my biggest challenge is to get my constituents to sit down and talk with me, so we get an understanding on how things are done. And like I said, I used to be the same way. I used to think that, hey, we got $1 million, that's spending. It's not like that. It's just not like that. So that's what I use for my biggest challenge. Anyone have any questions?
All right, thank you.
All right, I see several challenges with the position that I'm running for. First and foremost, this is a circuit position. As Kyle pointed out, it covers Autauga, Elmore, and Chilton counties. It is not a one county race. So there's challenges geographically with that, trying to cover all the areas and trying to cover and educate all the folks within those areas. Explaining to people that this is a newly created position, that I'm not trying to take Judge Lewis's job or Judge Baxley's job or Judge Booth's job. So that has been a challenge in this race also. As far as the position itself, this is a newly created position. So presumably there is a need for it, right? The legislature has decided that we have enough work and caseload to accommodate a new position. So I anticipate coming into the position that there's going to be some degree of backlog of cases. I don't want that to be negative against the judges that are already there. They are overworked. They have a lot of cases. And so whenever I come in, I anticipate that they are going to want to reassign those cases. So that's going to be a challenge for me to come in. A lot of these cases are already ongoing, so I'll have to learn these cases, and so that will be a challenge. I'm coming in as a private practice attorney, so there will likely be conflicts in cases that I will not be able to handle that will have to be delegated out to the other judges. Then we get to the root of the challenge, and that is the broken families. This is a domestic relations position, so I will be handling divorces and child custody issues and child support issues. So that in itself brings a whole bundle of challenges with it that will have to be handled. Anybody that's been through divorce or have known somebody that's gone through divorce knows that it's not easy. It's going to affect all of us as a community because we all have a neighbor, a friend, a coworker who has been through that process. And if it's a bad process, it's a very bad process. So my goal is to try to assist these families to go through the process as I have as a practitioner with as little collateral damage as possible. Now, it's not going to be perfect. We can't take back and unwind history. We take people as they are presented to us. And so my job as a judge is to try to assist the families through those processes. Thank you.
When you ask what the biggest problem is, I think the biggest problem is going to be instilling faith in the system in people. People see the court system, they come in, they're not having the best day. You never go to court because things are just going great in your life. And so you want to give people that opportunity to come into court and feel like they actually have a chance, to feel like they matter. You know, I look around and I grew up with Oscar. You knew Oscar when he was a kid. He had a chipped tooth. That was because my dad played baseball and called him on the Angels when we were in coach pitch. But my mom was laughing because we've talked about that forever. He will always be little Oscar in my family. So he's turned out great. I've turned out good. But you see the other kids that came up through school with us that you look at jail roster and there they are. And they might get out for a little while and they come back. And the system is broken. We are failing people left and right. And we've got to just wrap our arms around our people and try to protect them, whether it's protecting them from crime, protecting them from protecting them from their own poor choices. I've worked in the district court over the last 10 years, so I've had all these different roles, so I've seen it from all different sides. I've got the experience that should give people faith. I'm from the community, so I understand the community. I want to help people. I want to make Watauga County a better place for everybody. And that's the biggest problem, is how we improve our community.
Kyle's telling the truth. He had my tooth out. I think it was the second grade.
I think it's second.
Somewhere in there. Now, what he didn't tell you, what he doesn't know, maybe, I actually broke the same tooth three more times.
Oh, really?
Just an unlucky tooth. But with that being said, our next question. So we talked about what we thought were some of the, or what they thought were some of the biggest challenges. Let's talk now about what some of the greatest opportunities are in your respective roles. So exact same order, just talking about what you see as opportunities going forward.
As I stated it's going forward. I can see the opportunity that we are going to talk about the storm shelter. We are working on that. And we are talking about not paving like 3 or 4 or 5 roads, but we coming up with a plan that we'll try to do pave like 1 road per year. That was our next plan. But our real goal is to get more introductions in here so we get more jobs in Talbot County. So if you're looking for a job, we're gonna have some more jobs coming. Like I said, we've invested $165 million, $169 million in the Talbot County just for that. So, but at my closing statement, I have some more items I can talk to you all about. But right now, we're working on the storm shelters. We're working on trying to come up with a plan to get some road pay, because that's the biggest thing that most people talk to us about. Well, when you gonna pave my road? When you gonna get to my road getting paved? I understand. I understand that you want the road paved, but it's a process that we go through, and it's a process that I say again that I cannot talk to you all about it, but we do have things in the making. Like I said, we got 2 parts going. We got the sewer system going out there on Highway exit 186. They're gonna draw in more business over there, from the Pine Level to the Benison area. So we have things in plan. We really have things in plan. Like I said, it may not seem like it, but they are in the woods. So the only thing I'm asking you to do, just trust me on it. Just trust me on it. It's in the woods. Thank you.
So one of the things I see as an opportunity is that this is a new position. So coming into it, I will be able to put in new, I can take new actions. I can be creative in how I handle the cases. The circuit judges that we have currently handle criminal cases. They handle a wide variety of different types of cases. And with this being designated as a family court judge, it will have a designated skill set and a designated type of caseload. So as we know, the more we do things, the better we generally become at doing those things. And I, as a mother of 4 children, as a grandmother, I have the life experience that I bring to the table to be able to apply that to the legal experience and the expertise that's needed for this position. So I think that separating out these cases the way that the legislature has intended to put special attention towards this element, this segment of caseload, will give it the attention that it needs, and hopefully that will be an advantage to all of the people that we know that are going through these types of situations. Thank you.
So about jumping out of my chair on this question, because I'm excited to answer this one, because most people aren't asking what's the biggest opportunity. One of the hidden secrets of Talbot County is the Children's Policy Council. It is a council put together, and the chairperson of that is your district judge. And it has the ability to do different programs in the community to help out children. So you might have seen Friday, I rolled out an endorsement from Marlon Anderson. Marlon and I have been friends for a few years, and I've helped a lot with the Marlon and Marcus Foundation, and I have a passion for that program. And Marcus can tell you, Marlon can tell you, I will randomly, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, send them a text, be like, hey, I got this idea for a program. Because youth sports, now, I played youth sports growing up, poorly. Athletic ability was not my thing, academics were. Oscar can attest, my mom can attest. But you know what? I learned a ton of valuable lessons. And one thing that stood out to me was those coaches that I had. I don't remember a lot of the X's and O's from when I played, but I do remember those coaches. And now I'm a youth sports coach for my daughter, and those kids couldn't tell you the X's and O's I taught them. But when I show up at my daughter's school, the kids that were on my team, they still call me coach 3 years later. because I was their biggest cheerleader. They know that whenever something happens, I'm behind them and going to support them. So the Children's Policy Council is the biggest opportunity. When Judge Booth was our district judge, she won award after award after award for this program. I want to get back to that standard of being an award-winning Children's Policy Council that's recognized around the state for the great work it's doing for the kids in our community.
All right, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce another one of our candidates. Ms. Nicole Clark is an additional candidate who is running for our Circuit Judge Place 4. And I'd like to give her the opportunity to kind of do it all in one opening statement and then jump right into what she sees as being a major challenge for place number 4.
Thank y'all. Like you said, I'm Nicole Clark, and I'm also running for Circuit Judge Place 4. This is a very special seat, as Ms. Goggins stated, as it will hear solely divorce child custody cases. So I am a child of divorce. My parents divorced when I was 2. My dad got full custody of me, and we stayed in court until I was 17. So I know what it's like to be a child in that situation. Kind of because of what I went through, I knew very young that I was going to be a lawyer and that I was going to work with children. So right out of law school, I became a guardian ad litem and began advocating for children and situations that were similar to mine. I very quickly realized that our laws are not there to protect our children. So what I did was I started working with the Alabama Family Rights Association, which is now the National Parent Organization. And we have drafted and advocated. I've gone to the State House on numerous occasions and argued in support of better laws for our children. So I think that sets me apart as well. I'm not one to just sit around and complain about it. Let's take action. Let's figure a way to fix it. Let's make it better for our kids. In addition to being a child of divorce, a guardian ad litem, I'm also a step parent. So I know what it's like from that dynamic as well. So I bring a lot of life experience to the table. In my practice, I have done divorce and child custody cases. I have done a little bit of criminal. Unfortunately, when we have divorce and custody cases, we often see criminal cases that stem from that, like domestic violence and things like that. So I've worked really hard with the Domestic Violence Coalition. We're actually working right now with the Prattville Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, to kind of put together a family day to kind of help give resources for families. A lot of things that we hear from domestic violence victims is that they don't know what services are out there to help them. So we're hoping that we'll be able to kind of get a family services day and educate better what services are available for victims of domestic violence and families in general. So that's something that's coming up hopefully soon in Prattville. We'll be working with the mayor to get that out and promoted as well. So I would really appreciate your vote on March 5th. And I think the question was, what's the largest challenge we see? Okay. So currently, as Ms. Gottlieb stated, our judges hear all of the cases that come before them: divorce, child custody, criminal, and civil cases. With this seat, we're going to focus primarily or solely on family cases. So that's your divorce and child custody cases. I think that currently we've had delays in our cases. There's kind of that sweet spot on a custody or divorce case where you want to be. You want to move it along fast enough to get things done so you're not dragging this out for years. But you want to move it slow enough where you can kind of get past some of the tumultuous times and kind of let emotions calm down. And currently, with the caseloads that our judges have been dealing with, it's been very hard for them to get that sweet spot. We're either pushing them through a little too fast, or they've been dragging out for far too long. And so with this seat, having it designated specifically for that, with us hearing just those cases, it will allow us to kind of put those cases in that sweet spot to be able to better assist our families. Because at the end of the day, especially in custody cases, what matters is your children. And a lot of times parents lose sight of what's important with all the hurt and emotion that's going on in those. So I'm hoping that with this seat we can kind of better guide our families. And even if we're not going to have a traditional family unit in the same home, that we can co-parent or at least parallel parent for the betterment of our children. Thank you.
All right, this is going to be our lightning round of questions. So this is actually going to involve you as the audience. So if you have a question that you have just been itching to ask, we're going to allow you to fire away right directly at each one of the candidates. I'll kick it off. The question I want to ask, and I know that obviously for you all who are running for seats as a judge, you can't really talk to us specifically about how you would rule on a hypothetical case. So we want to stay outside of that. But with that being the case, I do also want to ask each candidate is what are your guiding principles? So what are the main values, the core, the root values that make up what we would call your North Star, and that inform how you would approach and make decisions? We'll start again with Commissioner Sutherland.
Well, my main root is constituents. I sit down and I listen to what the constituents have to say, and if it's something that I can answer at that particular time, I would answer for them. But if it's something that I need to go and ask my administrators about, I ask my administrators about it before I will give you a direct answer, because I don't want to go outside something that tell you something that I can't do. So that's really my main root. Like I said, my main root is just getting my constituents to understand how the program works. That's my main root. So I mean, it's no other way to put it. There's no other way to put it than that. Because my role at the commissioner's office, I do not just make a decision on my own. There's 5 of us there. You need 3 people to get anything passed. Without the other 3, you'll never get anything passed. That's the way the system works. So what you have to do, you have to work with your co-workers and sit down and negotiate and get down to the root of it and see it's something that we can do that legal that we can do. I mean, that's the only way I can put it. That's the only way I can put it. But working together as a team, put it together. That's the way it works. And I really like I said, I like to work with my co-workers and also work with my constituents, because I work for them. They don't work for me. I work for them. And we have to just sit down and see can we come to a decision that's feasible for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As a judge, I believe it will be important to handle each case fairly, without bias, and consistency. The families that come before the court need to have an idea of what to expect, and I think they need to have that applied across the board without any bias or preconceived ideas of what should take place. Every family is different. Every family is made up and has different challenges, and I think that they need to have the opportunity to know that the judge is looking at their circumstances uniquely and not based upon some idea that this is the way that they're going to rule even before they're ever even introduced to the court. I think it's important for the practitioners to have a judge that is accessible, somebody that is available in emergency circumstances, because y'all may know, but it's oftentimes in divorce cases where we have emergency situations where a judge has to be available and called upon because of certain issues that come about. And I'm going to make myself available, as I have in my private practice, and provide my contact information not to a handful of attorneys, but to all of the attorneys that are, I think that it's important also to listen and have the opportunity to hear early on when a case is filed, to actually bring people before the court, before the bench, so that I can lay eyes on them and know from the very outset what the issues are going forward. Oftentimes when cases are filed, the first time that the parties actually see the judge is some months down the road. Oftentimes the cases are handled by someone other than a judge initially, so we have referees that handle some of those issues in the early on cases. And I think that's unfortunate because the parties don't ever actually lay eyes on the judge, and the judge doesn't lay eyes on them until further down, and when several motions have been filed and issues have been addressed. So I intend to work that into the process so that the parties come early on before the court, have an opportunity to meet the judge, the person that is going to be deciding their fate ultimately, unless of course they settle, and give them that opportunity to connect with the system that is going to be assisting them through the process. Thank you.
I guess as far as what is my North Star, the first thing is the law. Plain and simple, as a judge, you have to follow the law. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Your job is to follow the law and apply it. The second thing that I would put up there is my faith. I'm a Christian. I don't hide the fact that I'm a Christian. I grew up in First Baptist Church here, and that's where I was baptized. That's where my parents, my grandparents went. I have a long legacy of being raised in a Christian household. Not everybody has that, and that's one problem in our world, is we're getting away from what made us great, is when you had families that went to church together, when you have those relationships. I mean, Pastor Lucas can attest to what he's done through his church. I mean, you've got all of these things. So my faith would be number 2. Number 3 would be my experience. The things that I've learned as a lawyer. I don't have to show up on day one and figure out what's happening. I know what's happening in the courtroom because I've been there. Also, my experience as a parent. When parents are in there and they are stressed out because the baby's not sleeping and they don't know what to do, I've been there. When the baby has issues that you don't know about, I've been there. I was talking to somebody earlier today, they said, oh yeah, my daughter's on her 4th different kind of formula she's tried. I said, yeah, been there. You're moving on to Nutramigen next. They're like, how did you know that? I was like, I've been there. My son had all the allergies, still has all the allergies. So I know what parents are going through, and so I have that empathy for them. But really what it boils down to is the law, my faith, and my experience.
I'll just kind of hit it on the park for that response, didn't he? So I would have to agree. The law is the law, and even if you don't agree with it, you have to apply it as it's written. I've had that situation just last week. I was in court most of the day Thursday on a case, and I was advocating hard for a position that I didn't necessarily support myself, but the law is the law. And so that's obviously number 1. I'm a Christian. I'm very involved in my church, in the children's ministry. That's kind of my service. It's where I feel like the Lord leads me. So I do the welcome, meet and greet all the children as they come into church on Sunday mornings. And then, as Kyle said, your experience. So again, not only do I have the experience as a lawyer, I have experience as a child of divorce and as a step-parent. I feel like Dee Dee's correct in saying that, a lot of times you don't see your judge until final hearing or further down the road, and I don't support that either. Currently, with the caseloads our judges have, they use special masters to kind of hear some of the preliminary stuff to keep them, or to move the cases along a little bit faster. And I think that with this seat, that will open it up to where we will be able to do that ourselves. So I do think that's important. It's your first glance of kind of what's going on with the case, to kind of get familiar with your players and the facts. These cases are very fact specific. So, as they said earlier, we can't speak on how we would rule in a specific situation. And really, you wouldn't be able to even if you were allowed to, because every case is fact specific. One of the things that I am very passionate about is having detailed orders. Right now, we tend to see a lot of orders that say parties were present, case came before the court, parties were present, we heard evidence and testimony, and this is how I'm ruling. And oftentimes, we end up taking a child away from a parent and giving primary custody or sole custody to one parent and making that other parent a visitor. And I think that is appalling that we're not detailing why you're not a part of your child's life, why you're not making decisions for your child on a day-to-day basis, especially when you're dealing with two fit parents. So that is something that I've been advocating for the legislature, and if I win this seat and I am elected as this judge, that is something that will be in all of my orders. We'll detail them and let parents kind of know what the issues are. So again, like I said, this is something I'm very passionate about. It's not something I just woke up one day and said, hey, let's run for judge. It's something we've really been working for, and it's something I'm just really passionate about. Thank you.
All right, the moment you all go ahead, questions from the audience. Do you have any questions? What we'll do, the way that we'll run this, if you'll ask your question, I will repeat it at the microphone, and then if it's directed at a specific candidate, we'll let them answer first. If it's something for the entire panel, then we'll let everybody answer. All right, Pastor Lucas, yes, sir.
Good evening. I appreciate you guys taking the time out and come here. It's important. One of the things as a pastor, and this is primarily for the judges, because being the family cases, was a divorce, whether it's child, putting a child with a certain parent. I guess my question is, how do you feel about a relationship with the pastor? Say that family has a pastor. How do you guys feel about having a relationship with that pastor? Because I believe a pastor should be involved in all of that. But I just wanted to get you guys' take on the pastor part of it, working with the judge and the family.
Everybody heard the question?
I'll take it.
Sure.
Can I take it from here?
Yes, ma'am.
So, and I imagine y'all want honest, frank answers. So what I see, and I do delinquency work, and I'm also the public defender for Watauga County. So I see a lot of involvement with pastors in that context versus the family part of it. And I primarily see pastor involvement with the African American communities more so than I see with the white pastors. Occasionally I will, and I know of some instances. I don't want to say it's an all or nothing, but I do see the African American pastor stepping in most often as the father figure in that family's role. So I think it's very important. I think that unfortunately we have unwed mothers who don't have a support system or family or community there that like they have with the church. And so I applaud it. I welcome it. Anytime I have a pastor, to the best of my ability, that shows up to speak on behalf of not just the child, but also as one of my defendant clients, I want them to speak to the court, because I know that while they may not have the credibility to stand up there and say that they're going to change, when they have a pastor there that's going to stand beside them and take them on that path, then it's more likely that they're going to be successful. And so I want them to be able to come up and talk to the judge and be a part of that process.
I agree. I think having a relationship with a pastor is a major thing. But at the same time, I go to a pretty large church. I don't have a strong relationship with our pastor. Now, some of the associate pastors I do. The one strongest connection I have is we have a Wednesday night, essentially like our Sunday school class, but we call it a Connect Group. And our Connect Group meets at our house. This is a group of people that 2 of them I knew before. The rest just kind of by chance ended up in our house. And now these are the people that are praying for us on a weekly basis. You know, I know every week on the prayer request, even last week when I wasn't there, it's going to say, praying for Kyle and Stephanie during this time. And so, yes, pastor is important, but I think any of those faith-based connections, because that is going to be where you get the highest level of support. When you have the people who are being the hands and feet of Jesus, where they are building their relationships on Scripture, that is the support system that people need in our community, whether it's a pastor or whether it's just somebody else from that community of faith.
So I laugh. All three of us go to the same church.
She used to be in our Connect group.
Yeah. Even in practice right now, I'm very big on counseling and Christian-based counseling. If a young couple come in for divorce, or even a couple that's been married for a long time, well, throughout our conversation, if I don't feel like we're kind of at the end of the road, I will not move forward until they go see a marriage counselor. When there are children involved, I advocate hard for counseling. So I think, and a lot of the counseling that we do is through churches, because a lot of people can't afford, to go out and pay private pay, and a lot of counselors don't accept insurance for counseling. So I definitely think that church involvement, whether it's your pastor, associate pastor, deacons, whatever it may be, are important. And I wish that we had more families that were open to having those people in their lives. I don't think that we would have some of the problems that we see in the courtroom now.
Thank you all. What a question?
All three of the people up there, there's only one judge and the other person who's attorney,
No, we're all attorneys.
but it's only one judge.
No. we don't-
Actually, none of these are currently in a seat. They're all running.
We're all running for, so they're running for one seat that covers Autauga, Chilton, and Elmore. I'm running for a seat that covers just Autauga.
Okay, she's running for the same one.
We're running for the same seat. So what we're running for is the Circuit Judge Place 4, which is just divorce and child custody. And it covers, like Kyle said, Autauga, Elmore, and Chilton counties. Kyle and Jessica Sanders are running for District Court, which only covers Autauga County.
To be specific, one question I have for you, Ms. Clark, is what legislation specifically did you champion the State House for, and was that legislation taken up and enacted?
So what we have been pushing for a number of years now has been the Children's Equal Access Act, and it has not passed yet. It's passed the Senate on 2 occasions, and it has yet to pass the House.
What senator sponsored that bill?
Oh, I'd have to go back and look. I don't recall, because most of what I've been advocating for has been in the State House, been in the House. So I've been working with Kenneth Pascal. He's the House representative out of Shelby County. Yes, he's an amazing person. He's been working on this legislation since, I believe, 2008. And
I didn't see that legislation in the current House roster to be up for bills.
That's right. So what we've caught a lot of resistance with the Domestic Violence Coalition, and we've caught a lot of resistance from the Judicial College. So the judges are mad about it because they don't want to put in writing why they're deviating from joint custody. Okay, so the Children's Equal Access Act, what it would do is it would require the judges to start at a joint custody standing, and then there are 19 reasons listed in the bill that would allow them to deviate from joint custody to give one parent primary or sole physical custody. Does that make sense? Number 19 is any other reason the judge deems appropriate. Okay? So it still gives the judge's discretion, but it will require them to detail in their order why they deviated. And so they are very upset about that. They're not wanting to do that because they feel that that opens them up to appeals.
So to be clear, it's passed the House and it's not passed the Senate, or it's passed the Senate and not the House?
It's passed the Senate and it has not passed the House.
Then how did that happen? Then who introduced the bill into the House?
So member. Like I said, Kenneth was advocating for that. I
He's
did.
a House of Representative.
Right. This was before he became a House representative member. He started advocating for this in 2008, and we've had to tailor the bill a lot since then. So Kentucky and I think Arkansas, or Arizona have already passed joint custody bills. And so we've pulled those, several of those judges and some of the legislatures in to kind of help us model our bill after theirs. And we've made a lot of headway. So when Kenneth became elected as an official of the House, we've kind of had to put that on the back burner a little bit, and we kind of changed gears. And so what we did was last session we passed a bill that says it's a constitutional right to parent your children.
So you were a part of that. So you do have legislation that you lobbied for that has.
Oh, yes. So we did that. And then this session, we're pushing for that to be a constitutional amendment. Once we get it, a constitutional amendment, then strict scrutiny will kind of apply, which is, a legal term. And so to make it a little bit harder to take your children away from you, okay? So
who has that bill put forward that you're currently, during this current active session?
Kenneth has it for the House.
Okay, so he's already put that bill in place, because I don't see that bill number listed on.
On their order of importance was the lottery, school choice, and then they're working on those. And so they've already passed the lottery bill through the House, and they've moved on to school choice. And so that should be coming up in the coming weeks.
Okay, and then Ms. Calhoun, Ms. Clark said that this is going to be just primarily family court. Is that accurate for this judge seat? Because I was under the understanding that in this judge seat that, yes, it will handle family court, but it will also handle some criminal cases as well.
So the way that the legislation is worded says that this judge will be assigned to the family court division for the bench. So there's no restriction for additional cases or conflicts to be assigned to this particular seat. It just is geared primarily towards family court.
But you would need criminal law experience, I know, in this court. Be able to, it would help to have criminal law experience.
I would say it most certainly does help, because oftentimes we do see an overlap in the types of cases that come for family court. So if you have somebody that's filed a domestic violence case, or if you have somebody that's filed a PFA, which is a civil action, but if you have an overlap there, or even a traffic case, so if it's a DUI, that's going to affect the outcome of the family case, because if you have a parent who's driving under the influence and that child is in the vehicle, that traffic case is going to have an effect on that family law case. So all the experience combined is going to be important. I do want to point out too that what I've seen here most recently are these cases that they don't even involve children. Okay, you have marriages that have been, families that have been together, husband and wife, the children get older, they move out of the house, and then the husband and wife are no longer compatible, so they divorce. And what they have oftentimes are businesses, business investment properties and that sort of thing. So you've got a whole nother facet of divorce that doesn't even involve the element of child custody and child support. So who is best suited to divide those assets and help the family through that than somebody who helped head up the financial litigation unit at the United States Attorney's Office as an assistant United States attorney, or somebody that helped litigate bankruptcy cases, because oftentimes bankruptcy is an element whenever you're having financial problems. So yes, there no doubt about it. Your domestic relations experience, your child custody, your child support cases, your experience there is going to be a huge factor in this. But don't offset or don't disregard the rest of the experience that the candidate brings to the table, because there's a wealth of knowledge there that goes towards how these cases are going to be divided or resolved. So think about this. If somebody comes in and they want a divorce, how easy would it be for them to to manipulate the system in their favor by running a domestic violence case over in a separate court or a PFA in an even different court and get an order over here and run back. And if that judge is not accustomed to knowing the ins and outs of what all goes on or what could go on and how it could be manipulated, then that judge is not going to be having the best position to be informed about what to do next.
In your current role, have you had any experience like Ms. Clark in lobbying for legislation, for pieces of legislation, or?
No, and that is quite frankly a concern to me because let's say this legislation doesn't pass and Ms. Clark is in the role as a judge. How do you think she is going to rule when she has been an advocate for a certain position? And is she going to legislate from the bench when that legislation is not passed? I mean, she's already made it known what she thinks across the board and what it needs to be. So it's very likely that she's going to start implementing that mentality as a judge versus applying the law that's currently written.
I will allow Ms. Clark to give a short rebuttal because the name was revoked.
Okay. So that is nonsense. I have advocated for years under the current law as it's written, and I will continue to do so. As I stated previously, the law is law. You can't change it from the bench, which is why I went to the legislature in the first place. Now, I have done domestic violence cases. I was in court a couple weeks ago. I had a 2.5-hour trial on some domestic violence cases. And that is something, the current law with domestic violence cases, which is something we couldn't make the Domestic Violence Coalition understand when we were advocating for that Children's Equal Access Act. There's a statute that states if you're convicted of domestic violence and there's a rebuttable presumption that you are unfit as a parent. So we see false charges filed all the time, which really upsets me because it takes resources away from those families who really need them. But we see these charges filed all the time as a way to get a leg up in custody cases. So I can guarantee that, I have the experience as far as the domestic violence and stuff, and I've done a lot of PFA cases, protection from abuse cases. Pretty much anything that stems out of divorce child custody cases I've handled. I've divided businesses. I've done quadros, which are qualified domestic relations orders. Those divide out your retirement and investment accounts. If there's anything that kind of touches and concerns divorce and child custody cases, I've handled them. So I am qualified in all aspects to handle it, and I will not legislate from the bench. I have enough friends over at the State House to do that for me.
Thank you for your response. Other questions?
So, Commissioner Stoudemire, what do you see as a roadmap for your next 4 years in office, if placed back in your commission seat?
Well, my role right now for the next 4 years is I'm going to try to get at least some road paved and stone shelters done. I was working on the park situation. We have that under control. We have that taken care of. But my next goal is the stone shelter, as I spoke about earlier, and road. That's the biggest concern that my constituents have in my district, is getting road paved and stone shelters. And I'm working with Mr. Boswell of the State House about trying to get that done.
And how, with you running for this seat, it's kind of hard to ask the questions with the current incumbent not here, but I guess there's been currently no plan really in place by the current judge as far as community engagement and problem solving and even being present. What do you see if elected to this position as a way to engage with the community? And because even currently in the schools, you see so much going on, and a lot of it is just send them to here and arrest them and do this. Do you have some plans or some type of way that you would like to engage in order to, instead of taking some of these youth and just singling them out and just throwing them over here, to just kind of work with them and engage with the community? And that's a question for the other two judges as well. In your positions, what would be your plan for community engagement and involvement?
I mean, as far as community engagement, I would, as I said earlier, the Children's Policy Council is one big way. Another idea that I have that I haven't really talked about, but if a kid commits a crime, if a kid has a traffic occurrence, do they really need to be missing a day of school to come to the courthouse? Why can't I go to the school and have court there for kids? I mean, if you're doing stuff at school, let's deal with it there. Instead of bringing you down there to the courthouse and you're sitting there in a courtroom waiting your turn with all kinds of other people. One of my favorite stories of my stupidity in high school was I got a traffic ticket and I had to miss in Mr. Duranis's driver's ed class. I had to miss my driving days and they had to change it because I had to go to court on a running a red light ticket. You know, I missed half a day of school to go get driving school on a traffic ticket. That was dumb. I need to be my butt in school. And so that's something that I would love to try to do. Try to keep our kids in school. Try to find programs to involve kids. You know, I talked about youth sports, but there's all kinds of programs. You know, Mr. Woodfin likes to tell a story about when he was in Marbury, when they brought the FFA back and kind of got it going bigger. There was a kid who had attendance issues, grade issues, and when he got involved with the FFA, he was gung-ho. You know, that kid was always at school. And so it's finding ways to get people connected however they get connected.
So one of the things, in juvenile court, we have CASA, and that's court-appointed special advocates. And they come in and they kind of help DHR as kind of guardian ad litem. They're not attorneys, they're volunteers. But they go into cases and they build a rapport with children and they get them to open up a little bit more. Because it's, unlike DHR, you have the same person throughout the pendency of your case. So in DR court, you know, we have guardian ad litems and they have to be certified, but they're expensive, right? So now you have parents that are paying for their attorney and now they're having to pay half of this guardian ad litem's expense. I would like to see CASA expand a little bit and for us to be able to utilize CASA in divorce cases. They're such a great advocates for kids, and they can kind of get in there and kind of see better so what's going on in the homes, the different homes. So that's one thing that I kind of am pushing for on that. There are some other programs. One Place Justice is one that works with juveniles and stuff like that. So I'd like to see them be more involved in some of our divorce or custody cases. The Family Sunshine Center in Montgomery, we're looking at trying to bring them to Otago County. They're amazing. I would like to see them utilized more often in some of our cases. So there's a lot of resources that are out there that aren't being utilized right now. And that's one of the things that I was talking about. I'm working with the police department to try to bring more community awareness to that. And so I'm hoping that will be at the end of April, first part of May. But I would like to utilize more of those services so we take some of the financial burden off of our families.
So just so I understand what your question is, how as a circuit judge will I be able to help
engage the community as well as be inclusive in the community? You know, how will you be seen? How will you be active? How will you be engaged with those in the community?
So the same way that I have in private practice, I participate in the special needs events that take place. I volunteer my time. I volunteer with my children. I volunteer with my husband. I round up folks in the community to go and participate. So I plan to continue to do that. I feel that's fun part. That's the fun part of what we do in the community, is coming together and supporting the other events. Nicole mentioned CASA. They had a fundraiser night at Kimberly's one night where several of us served as volunteer host staff to help raise money for that event. We look for things to do in the community. We serve on with the YMCA. We sponsor teams for different events that come up, whether it's a golf team or however we can to have a presence and to also help fundraise. Generally, is how it's tied. As far as getting the children involved, I think that district court lends itself more to involving the youth in the system, either through the traffic court system, because we do a lot of community service. So in lieu of, because these kids, let's say they are driving and they don't have a license and they get caught, parents are on the hook typically for having to foot those expenses. But what we can do is we can incorporate community service time in lieu of having to pay those. And that's also offered to adults as well. But generally, it's the younger folks that are kind of been behind financially than the adults. So there's ways through the district court system that we can incorporate that.
Thank you. Any other responses from any of the candidates? Excellent. All right, we're going to go ahead and move to the conclusion of our official conversation. Now, I would ask that all the candidates, if you would be so kind, stick around once we adjourn here, so that if people have any follow-up questions, they can get those to you in more one-on-one setting. But I would like to thank all of you for making the time and for making the sacrifice to be here. This community appreciates the fact that you thought it was important enough to come and stand before us and speak to us about your position, about your platform, and why you believe you're the best person to hold this particular office. We thank you for that, and we look forward to seeing everyone out at the polls on March the 5th. Commissioner Stoudemire, you got something, don't you?
Yes. I'd like to say this before we go. Out of everything that we have said tonight, it's all good. I work with kids every day. And out of the $577 million that we put into this county, out of the 108 jobs we put into this county, nothing compared to educating our kids. Now, out of all the money that we have spent in the county, my main goal I feel comfortable about and feel good about that when we put that money into the CAT program, the community college, that's going to educate our grandkids, our kids, and you can put all the jobs you want in, but if those kids are not educated, it's nothing. So my main thing about this whole entire program is that we put this money into the CAT program, and that's basically what I feel good about. We have a lot of more work to do, and we're going to continue what we started. We don't want to stop him. We want to keep rolling.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Councilman Jackson, did you have anything?
I just want to thank you guys for coming. As Mr. Henry said, come across the tracks tonight. So we appreciate you guys taking your time. It really means a lot for you guys to come over and spend some time and express your concerns and your plans and ideas for the future moving forward. So it really means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to the community. So I really appreciate you guys for coming tonight. So thank you guys.
You're welcome. Adjourn.
Well, should the rest of us get our clothes too?
All right. If you have a closing statement, please, by all means, take the mic.
So, I just kind of want to wrap things up, and Mr. Stoudemire brought up a point that I'm going to say one of my accomplishments when I was at Prattville Junior High School was when he was running in-school suspension. He had no idea who I was as a student, so that is an accomplishment. But seriously, I've stood up here and I hope you've seen my heart. I hope you see why I want this position. I don't want this because I just want the importance of being a judge. I want to make our community better. I want to put my experience to work for you. I want to put my passion for our community there. I have all of these qualities that I can put to work to make our community a better place. You know, there are a couple important names in my life. I'm a husband, I'm a daddy, I'm a Christian, and I'm a small business owner. So I'm going to ask all of you humbly for your vote on March 5th. And now this is the key part in the Republican primary. That's where all these judicial candidates will be, is in the Republican primary. So we need everybody to show up and vote on March 5th. Thank y'all for having us, and I'll turn it over to everybody else.
Well, since Kyle had to speak, then I guess I'll speak too. I know it's getting long, but I want to thank all of you for having us this evening. I was honored when I got the invitation, and I gladly accepted it. I do have sample ballots with me here tonight. I have available for you and for your friends if you want to share them. I do want to bring a couple of things to your attention that I haven't brought up earlier, is that I've been a resident of the 19th Judicial Circuit for over 23 years. So I am invested in this community. I'm invested in this circuit. I am the daughter of a family practitioner, licensed medical provider in Andalusia. So I have seen that aspect of it. My parents have been married for 52 years. I'm not from a broken family. I've had the benefit of that. I'm the middle child out of three. So I know I've had that experience of being with other siblings. So also, I wanted to mention that our fourth child is through adoption. So children mean a lot to me, and we actually have stepped up to, expand our family because of that. So I ask you humbly to vote Dee Calhoun at the March 5th primary.
So I am originally from Coosa County, grew up on a little bitty farm out there with my dad and my grandparents. I have two younger brothers. I'm the oldest. One is a police officer in Vestavia. The other lives in Elmore or Millbrook area and works for the water company. So I bring a lot of real life experience. I've been through a lot as a child. Been through a lot. A lot of things kids shouldn't go through. The difference is I have a great support system. A lot of kids don't have that. And like I said, because of what I went through, I'm very passionate about protecting children, and I advocate hard for them. I mean, when people come into my office, I'm there to represent them, but as soon as their interest conflicts with their child's interests, we have a problem. So, first and foremost is the kids, right? I'm married. I've been married. This year will be, I guess, August will be 9 years. I have a 15-year-old stepson and I have a 5-year-old daughter. They go to school here. We are here. This is where we chose to raise our family. Watauga County means a lot to me. If not, we could have gone somewhere else. This is where we chose to raise our family. So I would also ask for your vote on March 5th. Like I said, I bring a lot to the table besides law. So we're all qualified. We've all done all the things to make us qualified for this seat. So I think it's important that you do look at kind of everything when you make your decision. Thank you.
I hate to be the end of the thing, but I work in the prison system as Pastor Lucas did at one time. And the inmates are younger and younger and younger and younger. So, what is it that you think that the community need to do, that the people that we elect need to do, from that place. Plus, I'd like to ask your feelings about what is the LBGQ situation?
Can I answer?
Well, okay. Was that all of them?
You gonna have some one-on-one?
All right, you got a lot of questions there.
Have some
Can I start?
one-on-one?
All right, so let's do this. I think we were just about out of time. But let's do this. Let's allow for each of the candidates, once we conclude officially, Ms. Adair, you come up and actually talk to them one-on-one. I think that would be the most appropriate way to go about that. We actually are over our time. And Kyle, if you win, technically you just overruled me for your first judgment.
Do it again.
So with that being said, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Have a safe trip home, and we'll see you on March 5th.
Good evening.
Start 10 o'clock.